blue-white glow of Earth shrank in the view screen as the USS Defiant pushed deeper into the outer solar system. Captain John Miller stood with his hands clasped behind his back, watching the stars. After 15 years in space, he still found their cold light comforting. "Captain, we're approaching Neptune's orbit," said Lisa Reeves, the navigator. Her fingers danced across the holographic controls. Miller nodded. "Maintain course. Any update on that anomaly?" "Communications officer." Peter Ellis swiveled in his chair. "Still there, sir. It's not moving, but it's definitely artificial. Too regular to be natural." The USS Defiant was Earth's most advanced warship. Built in the orbital shipyards above Mars, it represented humanity's growing reach into space. By 2157, people had spread throughout the solar system, with colonies on Mars and several moons of Jupiter and Saturn. The United Earth Space Command had assembled a modest but capable fleet to protect these new frontiers. "Get me Admiral Wright," Miller ordered. Moments later, Admiral Susan Wright's stern face appeared on screen. Her gray hair was pulled back, in a tight bun, and the lines around her eyes had deepened since Miller had last seen her. "What have you found, Captain?" she asked without preamble. "An object of unknown origin near Neptune, Admiral. Definitely not one of ours." Wright's expression remained neutral, but Miller knew her well enough to see the tension in her jaw. "I'm sending scientists Kate Adams and Alan Johnson to join you. Their shuttle leaves in 3 hours. Until then, maintain distance and observe." "Yes, Admiral." After the call ended, Miller turned to his second-in-command, Commander Frank Diaz. "Thoughts?" Diaz shrugged. "First contact or someone's lost probe? Either way, it changes everything." 2 days later, Kate Adams peered at the alien object through the observation window of the small research vessel that had detached from the Defiant. The probe, if that's what it was, gleamed silver against the blackness of space. It was roughly spherical, with odd geometric patterns etched across its surface. "Any radiation?" she asked Alan Johnson, who was monitoring the sensors. "Nothing. Dangerous, but there's definitely energy building inside it." Alan pushed his glasses up his nose. "It's like it's waking up." Kate felt a chill that had nothing to do with the temperature. She keyed her comm. "Captain Miller, we're seeing increased activity. I recommend we pull back." "Acknowledged. Return to the ship immediately." As their small vessel turned toward the Defiant, the alien probe suddenly pulsed with light. A beam shot out, scanning their ship from bow to stern. "It's scanning us," Alan shouted. Before Kate could respond, a voice filled their cabin, speaking. Perfect English. "Primitive vessel identified. Prepare for message from the Carixian Empire." The hologram hovered above the conference table on the Defiant. The alien was humanoid but clearly not human. Its skin was pale blue, with ridges where eyebrows would be on a human face. It wore elaborate armor that seemed to be both ceremonial and functional. "I am Ambassador Zorthal of the Carixian Empire," the hologram announced. "We claim this system in the name of Emperor Vexmore, Light of the 7 Sectors, ruler of the 37 species." Captain Miller stepped forward. "This system is already inhabited. We are the people of Earth, and we have established colonies throughout our solar system." The alien's eyes narrowed. "Your species is known to us, human. You have only recently achieved rudimentary space travel. Your development is inadequate." Kate Adams stood beside Miller, her heart racing. As the ship's xenobiologist, she should have been excited to meet an alien species. Instead, she felt only dread. "The Carixian Empire brings order to the galaxy," continued Zorthal. "Your species will be classified as Category D, suitable for integration as a subject race. You will serve the Empire as workers and soldiers." Miller's face hardened. "And if we refuse?" "Refusal is not an option. You have 30 Earth days to prepare your leaders for surrender. If you resist..." The alien's face showed no emotion. "Your major population centers will be cleansed to make room for more deserving species." The hologram vanished, leaving the humans staring at empty air. Alan Johnson broke the silence. "Did an alien just threaten to wipe out our species?" "Yes," Miller said quietly. I believe it did. The emergency United Nations summit in Geneva was chaotic. Representatives from every nation shouted over each other as footage of the alien message played on the massive screens. Admiral Wright took the podium, her uniform crisp, her voice cutting through the noise. This is not a negotiation. This is not a cultural exchange. This is a threat to our existence. The Secretary General, a tall Nigerian woman named Amara Okafor, raised her hand for silence. Admiral Wright, what are our options? We fight. Wright said simply. We have 30 days before they expect an answer. I suggest we use that time to prepare. Fight an interstellar empire? The Chinese representative looked incredulous. With what? Our most advanced ships can barely reach Saturn. With everything we have, Wright replied. And with what we can build. I've already spoken with our top engineers. As if on cue, William Parker and Laura Chen entered the chamber. They were both in their 30s, with the intense look of people who hadn't slept. In days, Laura stepped up to the microphone. The alien probe is still transmitting. We've been analyzing its signals, learning about their technology. They're advanced, yes, but not in all areas. William nodded. Their weapons are powerful, but their tactics seem rigid, predictable. We've run simulations suggesting they rely heavily on overwhelming force rather than adaptation. And how does that help us? Asked the Russian delegate. Humans are good at adapting, Laura said. It's what we do best. Admiral Wright took over again. I propose a two-part strategy. First, we appear to negotiate, asking for more time and information. Second, we secretly prepare for war. We retrofit every ship we have with weapons. We accelerate the production of our newest vessels. We train our people for space combat. And the colonies? Asked the Mars representative via video link. What about us? You'll be our second line of defense, Wright answered. If Earth falls, Mars must survive. If Mars falls, the outer colonies must continue. Humanity will not surrender. The vote was unanimous. For the first time in history, Earth stood truly united. Back on the USS Defiant, now positioned near Mars, Captain Miller addressed his crew. I won't lie to you. We're facing an enemy with technology far beyond our own. They have hundreds, maybe thousands of ships. We have dozens. They've conquered 37 species. We've barely left our solar system. He looked at each face in turn. Human faces from different countries, different backgrounds, but all wearing the same determined expression. But we have something they don't expect. They think we're primitive. They think we'll surrender. They think we're weak. Miller smiled grimly. Let's show them how wrong they are. Kate Adams watched from the back of the room. She thought about Earth, its oceans and mountains, its cities and farms, its billions of people who had no idea that aliens existed until a few days ago. People who now faced extinction. We won't just fight, Miller concluded. We'll win, because we're human, and humans don't give up. As cheers erupted around her, Kate wondered if determination would be enough against an empire that spanned the stars. She hoped so. The alternative was unthinkable. Outside the viewports of the Defiant, Mars glowed red against the blackness. Somewhere beyond Neptune, more Carixian ships would be coming. The countdown had begun. Humanity's first interstellar war was about to start, and the galaxy would never be the same again. The massive Carixian warship emerged from what humans would later call fold space, a ripple in the fabric of reality that allowed faster-than-light travel. 4 more warships followed, their hulls gleaming with a metallic purple sheen that seemed to absorb rather than reflect light. Subcommander Drechthal stood on the command deck of the lead vessel, the Imperial Claw. His pale blue skin contrasted with his black uniform, adorned with silver symbols of rank. Status report, he ordered. We have arrived at the edge of the target system, Subcommander, replied his second-in-command. Scans show primitive defense systems around the 4th and 6th planets. The 3rd planet, their homeworld, has more substantial defenses, but nothing our weapons cannot handle. Drechthal's mouth twisted into what passed for a smile among his species. The humans have had 30 days to prepare. Let us see what they have accomplished. He turned to his communications officer. Send the final warning. Tell them their time is up. Aboard the USS Defiant, now hidden in the shadow of Jupiter's moon Europa, Captain John Miller received the Carixian message. "They're here," he said simply to his bridge crew. Admiral Wright's face appeared on the main screen. She was aboard the USS Valor, coordinating Earth's defense from a secure location near Mars. 5 ships, just as our probes predicted, she said. They're heading towards Earth on a direct course. They'll pass Jupiter in 6 hours. Miller nodded. "We're ready, Admiral." "All ships are in position," Wright confirmed. "Remember the plan? Hit and run. Don't engage directly unless absolutely necessary. Draw them into the kill zones." She paused. "Good luck, John." "You too, Susan." The communication ended, and Miller turned to his crew. "Battle stations. Prepare for Operation Thunderbolt." The Carixian ships moved confidently through the Jupiter system, ignoring the moons as irrelevant obstacles. Their sensors swept ahead, but they detected nothing unusual. "Primitive species," Drechthal muttered. "They probably expect us to negotiate." Suddenly, alarms blared across his bridge. "Multiple objects approaching," shouted his sensor officer, small vessels emerging from behind the moons. 3 human ships appeared seemingly from nowhere. They were smaller than the Carixian warships, but they moved with surprising speed and agility. "Amusing," Drechthal said. "They think they can fight. Target the lead vessel and fire when ready." Before his weapons officer could respond, the human ships launched dozens of missiles. The Carixian shields easily absorbed the impacts. "Is that all they have?" Drechthal laughed. "Return fire." The Imperial Claw fired its main weapon, a beam of concentrated energy that should have vaporized the human ship. But the USS Defiant rolled at the last second, taking only a glancing hit to its rear section. "They're faster than we expected," his tactical officer noted. "It won't save them," Drechthal replied. On the Defiant, Miller gripped his command chair as the ship shuddered from the partial hit. "Damage report," he barked. "Shield generators at 60%, Captain," reported his engineering officer. "That was just a grazing hit and it nearly fried us." Miller nodded grimly. "Then we don't get hit again. Execute Phase 2. The Defiant and the HFY, other human vessels scattered, racing toward Jupiter's complex system of moons. "They're following," Lisa Reeves confirmed from her navigation station. "All 5 ships, just as we hoped." "Send the signal to the mining ships," Miller ordered. Deep within Jupiter's rings, 30 converted mining vessels waited. They weren't warships, just industrial ships with engines powerful enough to move asteroids, retrofitted with the simplest of weapons. Their captains were mostly civilian volunteers, miners and engineers who had responded to Earth's call for help. Ben Rogers, captain of the mining ship Rocky Road, received the signal from the Defiant. "That's it, people," he told his nervous crew of 12. "Remember, we just need to hit them once with the EMP devices, then get out. The military ships will handle the rest." His pilot, a young woman named Olivia Ward, guided the ship out of its hiding place among the debris of Jupiter's rings. Around them, the other mining ships did the same. They formed a rough half-circle, waiting for the Carixian warships that were chasing the military vessels directly into their trap. Laura Chen had barely slept in 30 days. The engineer had been working non-stop at the hastily established Jupiter Defense Station, studying the data from the Carixian probe. Now she watched her screens with intense focus as the battle unfolded. "The mining ships are in position," she told William Parker, who stood beside her. "The Carixians are following our warships exactly as predicted." William nodded. "They're so arrogant. They think their technology makes them invincible. Let's prove them wrong." Laura opened a channel to all the mining ships. "This is Engineer Chen. Remember, aim for the central section of each ship. That's where our scans show their shield generators are strongest, which means that's what they're, protecting." She took a deep breath. "Launching in 3, 2, 1, now." The mining ships fired as one. Instead of conventional explosives, they launched devices that Laura Chen and William Parker had created. Electromagnetic pulse generators specifically tuned to the frequency of Carixian shields. Drechthal was still focused on pursuing the human military vessels when the alert sounded. Secondary attack from behind, his sensor officer shouted. Ignore it, Drekthal ordered. Our shields can handle any primitive weapons. But these weren't conventional weapons. The EMPs detonated against the Carixian shields, and instead of being blocked, they created a cascading failure that rippled through the shield systems. Shield failure on all levels. The panic in his officer's voice was unmistakable. How did they... Evasive action, Drekthal commanded. But it was too late. The USS Defiant and the other military ships had already turned around. Now they fired their actual weapons, nuclear-tipped missiles that would have been stopped by the Carixian shields under normal circumstances. 2 Carixian ships exploded immediately. A third spun out of control, crashing into one of Jupiter's smaller moons. Direct hits, Frank Diaz shouted on the Defiant's bridge. 3 enemy ships down. A cheer went up from the crew, but Miller silenced them with a raised hand. 2 more to go, and they won't fall for the same trick. All ships regroup for Phase 3. The mining vessels were already retreating, their part in the battle done. The surviving 2 Carixian ships, including Drekthal's Imperial Claw, had recovered from the initial shock and were now firing wildly at the human ships. They're angry, Miller observed. Good. Angry enemies make mistakes. Drekthal couldn't believe what was happening. 3 Imperial ships destroyed by a species that had barely achieved space travel? It was unthinkable. Get me a direct line to the human vessels, he demanded. When the connection was established, he spoke with cold fury. This is Sub-Commander Drekthal of the Carixian Empire. Your resistance is futile. You have simply ensured that your extermination will be more thorough. Captain Miller's face appeared on his screen. The human looked calm despite the battle raging around him. This is Captain John Miller of Earth. We're just getting started. As Miller spoke, the Defiant executed a maneuver that should have been impossible for a ship its size. It dove directly toward the Imperial Claw, firing precisely at the weakened section of the hull where the shields had failed. The Carixian vessel shuddered under the impact. Systems failed across the ship. Drekthal realized with growing horror that the humans had somehow identified the exact vulnerabilities in Carixian design. Retreat, he ordered. Back to fold space. We must inform the Imperial fleet. His remaining ship, along with one other, limped away from Jupiter. Behind them, the human vessels did not pursue. They didn't need to. They had won the first battle. Admiral Wright received the news with cautious optimism. 3 ships destroyed, 2 retreating. It's better than we dared hope for. Laura's EMP devices worked perfectly, Miller reported from the Defiant. And the mining ships performed their part, without a single loss. They'll be back, Wright warned. And in greater numbers. I know, Miller agreed. But now we know we can hurt them, and next time, we'll be even more prepared. As the Defiant headed back to Earth, its crew battered but triumphant, news of the victory spread throughout the solar system. For the first time in 300 years, the Carixian Empire had faced defeat from a primitive species. The first battle was over. The war had just begun, and humanity had served notice to the galaxy. Underestimate us at your peril. The Imperial Palace on Carix Prime was built from crystal and metal, towering over the capital city like a mountain of light. Inside the Grand Council chamber, Sub-Commander Drekthal kneeled before Emperor Vexmore, his head bowed low. You lost 3 warships to a species that has barely left its own planet? The Emperor's voice was soft, which made it all the more frightening. He was tall even for a Carixian, with skin so pale it was almost white. The ridges above his eyes were decorated with jewels that sparkled as he moved. They were more resourceful than we expected, Your Highness, Drekthal said, not daring to look up. They used our own confidence against us. Emperor Vexmore rose from his throne and walked slowly around Drekthal. In 300 years, no species has defeated a Carixian battle group. Yet these humans managed it with primitive ships and improvised weapons. They adapted our technology somehow, Drekthal explained. Created devices that disrupted our shields at specific frequencies. They should not have been able to do that with their level of technology. The Emperor stopped in front of him. Perhaps we have underestimated them. Grand Admiral Zarkothan stepped forward. Unlike the Emperor, his blue skin was deeply lined and scars marked his face. Rare among Carixians who usually healed without trace. I will take personal command of the response fleet, Your Highness. These humans will learn the cost of defying the Empire. The Emperor nodded. How many ships will you require? 200 should be sufficient to reduce their planet to molten rock. You have them. The Emperor returned to his throne. I want this matter resolved quickly, Admiral. The Empire cannot appear weak before its subjects. It will be done, Your Highness. Zarkothan bowed deeply. As they left the throne room, Drekthal risked a question. Admiral, do you truly believe 200 ships are necessary? The humans have perhaps 20 warships at most. Zarkothan's expression hardened. When hunting dangerous prey, one does not count the cost of arrows. One ensures the prey is dead. On Earth, celebrations over the Jupiter victory quickly gave way to grim preparation. In a bunker deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, Admiral Susan Wright studied the holographic display of the solar system. The mining ships are being converted to combat vessels as quickly as possible, she told the assembled military leaders. Mars Colony is constructing additional weapons platforms, but our intelligence suggests the next Carixian fleet will be much larger. Captain John Miller, attending via secure link from the USS Defiant, spoke up. We won't survive a direct confrontation with a major Imperial fleet. We need more time. Time for what? Asked General Yamamoto of the Asian Alliance. Our technology is still centuries behind theirs. Not in all areas, Laura Chen interrupted. The engineer looked exhausted, but her eyes were bright with excitement. The data we collected during the battle confirms my theory. The Carixians rely on standardized systems, efficient but inflexible. They haven't faced a serious military challenge in generations, so they've stopped innovating. William Parker nodded in agreement. Their ships are powerful but predictable. They follow rigid tactical protocols. That's why our ambush worked. They couldn't adapt quickly enough. Admiral Wright considered this. So we use guerrilla tactics. Hit and run, force them to adapt to us. Yes, Miller said. But we also need intelligence. I request permission to take the Defiant on a reconnaissance mission beyond Neptune, where the Carixians first appeared. If we can observe their fold space technology, maybe we can predict where they'll emerge next time. Wright hesitated only briefly. Permission granted, but you'll need to be back before they arrive. We need every ship when the main fleet comes. The USS Defiant moved silently through the darkness beyond Neptune. Its sensors were passive only. No active scans that might be detected. In the observation lounge, Kate Adams and Alan Johnson watched the stars. Do you think we have a chance? Kate asked quietly. Alan adjusted his glasses. Statistically? No. But humans have a way of beating the odds. I hope you're right. Kate turned as Captain Miller entered the room. We've detected something, he said without preamble. A small ship, not Carixian design, hiding in the shadow of a dwarf planet. Kate frowned. Another alien species? Let's find out. Miller led them to the bridge, where a magnified image showed a sleek vessel, unlike the angular Carixian ships. This one was curved, almost organic in appearance. It's not running, Commander Diaz reported. In fact, it's broadcasting a signal directly at us, some kind of communication attempt. Open a channel, Miller ordered. The screen flickered, and an alien face appeared. It was vaguely reptilian, with scales in shades of green and yellow and large, expressive eyes. Humans, the alien said in accented but understandable English. We have been watching. You fight the Carixians? Miller stepped forward. We defend ourselves against their aggression, yes. I am Captain John Miller of Earth. Who are you? I am Scout Captain Trell of the Nelvarian Remnant. We, too, have suffered under Carixian rule. The alien scales shifted color slightly. Some kind of emotional display. We have been in hiding for decades, gathering intelligence, looking for allies. Kate moved to stand beside Miller. There are others who resist the Empire? Many species chafe under Imperial control, Trell explained. But none have successfully fought back until you. Your victory at the gas giant has sent ripples through the subjected worlds. Some dare to hope again. Miller's expression remained cautious. Why should we trust you? Because I bring warning and an offer. Trell's scales darkened. A massive Carixian fleet approaches, led by Grand Admiral Zarkothon himself. They will arrive in 7 of your days. You cannot defeat them alone. And your offer? Alliance. Technological exchange. The Nelvarians were once known for our scientific achievements before the Empire conquered us. We have knowledge that may help you. Miller glanced at Kate and Alan, who both nodded subtly. I'll need to consult with my superiors, Miller said carefully. Can you dock with our ship? Yes. But hurry, Captain Miller. Time grows short for both our peoples. The news of potential alien allies spread through Earth's leadership like wildfire. Some were skeptical, others hopeful. In the end, practicality won out. Humans needed every advantage they could get. In a secure facility beneath the lunar surface, Kate Adams and Alan Johnson worked alongside 3 Nelvarian scientists. Despite their different biology, Kate found the aliens surprisingly easy to work with, curious, methodical, and determined. The Carixians believe themselves invincible, explained Srel, the lead Nelvarian scientist. Her scales were a soft blue, which Kate had learned indicated a teaching mood. This is their greatest weakness. They have not truly innovated in centuries. That fits with what we observed, Alan said, studying the holographic display of Carixian ship schematics that the Nelvarians had provided. Their technology is powerful but rigid. Yes, Srel agreed. They rely on brute force rather than elegance. Their weapons are designed to overwhelm, not to adapt. Kate pointed to a specific section of the schematic. What about their fold space? Drives? If we could disrupt those. Srel's scales rippled with what might have been excitement. Possible. Difficult, but possible. We would need to create a quantum disruption field calibrated to their specific warp signature. Alan looked up sharply. Could we use that to prevent them from retreating? Force them to fight on our terms? Better, Srel said, her scales now bright yellow. We could potentially trap them between normal space and fold space, a limbo from which they cannot escape. As the scientists worked, Admiral Wright prepared Earth's defenses. Every ship was armed, every colony fortified as best as possible. Civilian populations were moved to underground shelters. The lunar bases were evacuated. Their personnel moved to Earth or Mars. Captain Miller, now back with the main fleet, addressed his crew one final time before the expected arrival of the Imperial forces. 7 days ago, we didn't know aliens existed. Now we face an empire that spans the stars, but we are not alone. He gestured to Trell, who stood beside him on the bridge. We have found allies who believe, as we do, that freedom is worth fighting. 4. The Carixians think their victory is assured. Let's prove them wrong. As Miller spoke, the sensors on outposts beyond Pluto detected the first ripples in space-time. The Imperial fleet was arriving. Earth's first war for survival was about to enter its most desperate phase. Space rippled and tore as the Carixian Imperial fleet emerged from fold space. Ship after ship appeared, massive warships bristling with weapons, their hulls gleaming in the pale light of the distant sun. At the center of the formation flew the Imperial Judgment, Grand Admiral Zarkothon's flagship, twice the size of the other vessels. From the observation deck of a defense platform orbiting Mars, Admiral Susan Wright watched the enemy fleet take shape. She had expected 200 ships. There were nearly 300. They're not taking any chances, she said quietly to her staff. Her communications officer looked up from his station. Admiral, we're receiving a transmission from the Carixian flagship. They're demanding to speak with Earth's highest military authority. Wright straightened her uniform. Put them through. The holographic display flickered and Grand Admiral Zarkothon appeared. His scarred face showed no emotion as he studied Wright. I am Grand Admiral Zarkothon of the Carixian Empire, he said. You are the military leader of this world? Admiral Susan Wright, United Earth Space Command, she replied, keeping her voice steady. You're trespassing in our system, Admiral. Zarkothan's expression didn't change. Your species has committed an act of war against the Empire by destroying Imperial vessels. Normally, this would result in the immediate cleansing of your world. He paused. However, the Emperor is merciful. Surrender now, and we will spare your major population centers. Your species will serve the Empire as a Category E labor race. Wright noted the downgrade from Category D to E, a punishment for their resistance. And if we continue to resist, she asked, though she already knew the answer, total extinction. Zarkothan said the words as casually as if discussing the weather. You have 1 hour to surrender. After that, we attack. The transmission ended and Wright turned to her staff. Send the signal, all ships to battle positions, and tell Captain Miller it's time for Operation Thunderstrike. The USS Defiant waited at the edge of the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter, along with 20 other human warships, the entire military fleet of Earth. They were hopelessly outnumbered, but Captain John Miller felt a strange calm. Signal from Admiral Wright, announced Communications Officer Peter Ellis. Operation Thunderstrike is a go. Miller nodded. Acknowledge the signal. All hands to battle stations. He turned to his guest, Scout Captain Trell of the Nelvarians. Is your ship in position? Trell's scale shifted to a determined orange. Yes, Captain. My ship and 3 others are ready at the coordinates, but I must warn you again. Even with our technology, this plan is extremely dangerous. So is extinction, Miller replied. Helm, set course for the rendezvous point. Let's hope our scientists got the calculations right. In a fortified laboratory beneath the lunar surface, Kate Adams and Alan Johnson worked frantically alongside the Nelvarian scientists. Around them, dozens of identical devices hummed with power. Quantum disruption generators built using a combination of human and Nelvarian technology. The calibration is complete on the last batch, Alan announced, wiping sweat from his forehead. That's all 200 of them. Kate checked the countdown timer on her display. 42 minutes until the deadline. She opened a communication channel. Admiral Wright, the devices are ready. 80% chance of success, according to our Nelvarian friends. That'll have to do, Wright's voice came back. The transport. Ships are on their way. Be ready to move out as soon as they arrive. And Dr. Adams, good work, all of you. Kate looked at the Nelvarian scientists, their alien faces showing expressions she was just beginning to understand. In just days, they had accomplished what should have taken years. I hope it's enough, she said quietly. Grand Admiral Zarkothan studied the tactical display showing the human defenses. They were pathetically inadequate. A handful of warships, some hastily constructed defense platforms, and primitive missile systems on their red planet colony. They cannot seriously intend to fight, he said to his second-in-command. Their resistance is illogical. The humans have proven unpredictable, Admiral, his officer replied cautiously. Our intelligence suggests they may have some plan. No, plan can save them from this fleet. Zarkothan dismissed the concern with a wave of his hand. Once the deadline passes, target their orbital defenses first, then their military vessels. When those are eliminated, we will begin bombardment of their major cities. Yes, Admiral. Zarkothan settled back in his command chair. The human admiral, Wright, had not responded to his ultimatum, which meant they had chosen extinction. It would be a short battle, hardly worth his personal attention. William Parker guided his small, fast ship through the debris field of the asteroid belt. Behind him, 20 similar vessels followed in tight formation. They weren't warships, just modified shuttles, each carrying 10 of the quantum disruption devices that the scientists had built. Status report, he called to his navigator, Olivia. Ward, the same pilot who had flown the mining ship during the Jupiter battle. So far so good, she replied. The Carixians are focused on our main fleet. Their rear is practically unguarded. They're arrogant, William said. They think we'll attack head-on like they would. He checked his own display, which showed the positions of the main human fleet, and the 4 Nelvarian ships waiting at the designated coordinates. 10 minutes to rendezvous. Let's just hope the distraction works. Admiral Wright watched the countdown reach 0. The hour was up. Open a channel to the Carixian flagship, she ordered. Grand Admiral Zarkothan appeared on screen, looking impatient. Have you come to surrender, human? Actually, Wright said, allowing herself a small smile, I thought I'd give you one last chance to leave our system peacefully. Zarkothan's face showed genuine surprise, followed by something like amusement. Your species has courage, if not intelligence. Prepare to... Wright cut the transmission. All ships execute Battle Plan Alpha, defensive positions around Mars. The human fleet moved into a defensive formation that any military tactician would recognize as hopelessly inadequate, a desperate last stand. They're taking the bait, Wright murmured. Now it's up to Miller and Parker. The first Carixian shots obliterated 3 human defense platforms in rapid succession. The Imperial fleet moved forward in perfect formation, their weapon systems targeting the human ships one by one. Aboard the Defiant, Captain Miller watched the battle unfold on his tactical display. The human fleet was fighting bravely, using the maneuvers they had developed after studying Carixian tactics. But they were still badly outgunned. We're losing ships fast, Captain, Commander Diaz reported grimly. Just a few more minutes, Miller said. We need to keep their attention focused forward. Beside him, Trell monitored his own equipment. The Nelvarian ships are in position. Parker's team is approaching the rendezvous point. Miller nodded and opened a channel to Admiral Wright. We're ready, Admiral, on your command. Wright's face appeared on screen, her expression tense but determined. Do it, Captain, and good luck. Miller turned to his helm officer. Take us in. Maximum speed. All weapons ready. The Defiant broke from the defensive line, charging directly at the center of the Carixian fleet. Several other human ships followed in what appeared to be a suicidal attack run against hopeless odds. Grand Admiral Zarkothan watched with puzzlement as a small group of human ships launched what appeared to be a desperate attack. What are they doing? He wondered aloud. They cannot hope to break through our lines. His tactical officer studied the readouts. They appear to be targeting our flagship, Admiral. A suicide run, perhaps. Target those ships and destroy them, Zarkothan ordered. All forward batteries. As his gunners took aim at the approaching human vessels, a warning alarm sounded. Additional contacts, Admiral. Small vessels approaching from behind us. Zarkothan turned in surprise. From behind? Impossible. But the tactical display didn't lie. Dozens of small human ships had somehow circled around and were now approaching the rear of his perfect formation, where defenses were minimal. Turn half the fleet to engage those ships, he ordered. The rest will continue the attack on their main fleet. As his officers rushed to comply, Zarkothan felt something he hadn't experienced in decades: doubt. The humans were acting completely contrary to standard military doctrine. They were supposed to concentrate their forces to make a last stand protecting their homeworld. Instead, they were splitting up, attacking from multiple directions, behaving unpredictably. What were they planning? He was about to find out. William Parker watched the timer on his display reach 0. Now, he shouted to his team. All 20 shuttles released their quantum disruption devices simultaneously. The small spheres drifted toward the Carixian ships at the rear of the formation. The same moment, the 4 Nelvarian vessels activated their specialized equipment. Energy fields spread outward, connecting with the disruption devices. A web of shimmering light formed behind the Imperial fleet. On the bridge of the Defiant, Captain Miller gave the final order. All ships execute emergency fold space maneuver. The human fleet suddenly vanished. Using the crude fold space technology the Nelvarians had helped them adapt. It wasn't sophisticated enough for long jumps, but it allowed them to disappear and reappear a short distance away, behind the Carixian fleet, right next to Parker's shuttles. Grand Admiral Zarkothan stared in shock as the human vessels disappeared from his forward screens and reappeared behind his fleet. Impossible. They can't have fold space technology. Before he could issue new orders, the quantum disruption devices activated. The web of energy expanded rapidly, enveloping nearly 200 Carixian ships. Where the energy touched their hulls, their own fold space drives activated involuntarily. But instead of entering fold space completely, the ships became trapped between dimensions, half in normal space, half in fold space. "What's happening?" Zarkothan demanded as alarms blared across his flagship. His science officer's voice shook as he answered. "Our fold space drives are activating without command, Admiral. The ships are being pulled into fold space, but something is preventing complete transition." On the Defiant, Trell explained what was happening to Captain Miller. "The devices create a quantum disruption field that forces their drive systems to activate, but prevents them from completing the jump. They're trapped between dimensions." Miller nodded grimly. "And the ships that aren't caught in the field? They'll try to escape using their fold space drives," Trell said. "But once they activate, they'll be caught too," Miller finished. "Ingenious." Admiral Wright's voice came through the comm system. "All ships target any vessels attempting to escape. Don't let them get away." The human fleet, now behind the Carixians, opened fire on the confused enemy vessels. The Carixian formation, so perfect just minutes before, had dissolved into chaos. Some ships were half visible, caught in the disruption field. Others were trying to maneuver, but their training had never prepared them for an attack from behind. While their front-facing weapons were pointed at empty space, Zarkothan's flagship, the Imperial Judgment, had escaped the initial disruption field. But as the Admiral ordered a retreat, the fold space drive activated and immediately caught the ship in the expanding field. "No!" Zarkothan shouted as his mighty vessel began to phase in and out of normal space. He watched helplessly as the human ships, so primitive just days before, methodically destroyed his trapped fleet. The battle lasted less than an hour. Nearly 300 Carixian ships had entered the solar system. Only 23 managed to escape, fleeing without using their fold space drives, limping away at sublight speeds. On Earth, cheers erupted from every city, every shelter, every colony as news of the victory spread. Against impossible odds, humanity had prevailed. In the aftermath, Admiral Wright stood with Captain Miller on the observation deck of the Mars station, watching as engineers and scientists examined the half-phased Carixian flagship that had been towed into orbit. Grand Admiral Zarkothan was now a prisoner, along with thousands of Carixian crew members. "What happens now?" Miller asked. "We've received messages from 12 different species," Wright replied. "All of them were part of the Carixian Empire. All of them want to talk about alliance." Kate Adams joined them, accompanied by Trell. "The Nelvarians have shared more of their technology with us," she said, "and we've shared our innovations with them. Together, we're already developing ships that can match anything the Empire has." "The Empire is in chaos," Trell added, his scales a bright, hopeful green. "With Zarkothan captured and most of their fleet destroyed, rebellions have broken out on dozens of worlds. Emperor Vexmore is facing the first serious challenge to his rule in centuries." Wright smiled slightly. "We've been invited to send representatives to a meeting of all the rebel species. They want to form a new alliance, one based on equality, not subjugation. And they want humans to lead it," Trell said. "Your species has done what none of us could. You stood up to the Empire and won." Miller looked out at the stars, thinking of how much had changed in just a few short weeks. Not bad for a primitive species that has barely left its own planet. From that day forward, a new saying spread across the galaxy: "If you face humans in war, run." It wasn't just their technology or their weapons that made them dangerous. It was their spirit, their refusal to surrender, their ability to adapt, their willingness to fight against impossible odds. The first human war had ended. A new galactic order was beginning, and humanity was at its center.